On this wonderful day, Wednesday, May 23rd, of the Transportation Committee, I'm joined by my colleagues, Paul Koretz and Bernard Parks, so we can go forward with the meeting. Okay. We would like to suggest, colleagues, that we approve on consent item number 3. Could we read item number 3?
Item number 3 is a DOT report relative to establishing a temporary preferential parking district 170 on Iredell Street between Iredell Lane and westerly end of Iredell Street pursuant to a Krikorian-Rosendahl motion.
Now, if you understood that, can you help me? Does anybody have an opinion on that, colleagues, or can we approve that on consent? Mr. Koretz said it's fine. Mr. Parks? Okay. He's okay, too? Okay. So moved. Item 1.
Item number 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Danny Kim to the Board of Transportation Commissioners for a term ending June 30th, 2016, to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Ms. Grace Yu.
Thank you for that. Good afternoon, Ms. Kim.
Good afternoon, council members.
I had the pleasure of spending some time with her before this meeting here. I don't know, colleagues, if you've met with her, but I'm very excited. She wants to make a difference. She comes in with a background of doing some Measure R stuff for Kevin Murray, and the mayor's office reached out to her and asked her to join the committee. And colleagues, any comments about her? We want to know anything?
I wonder if you could just walk us a little bit through your background.
Sure. Currently, I actually live in your district, sir.
Yes, I know that.
love Encino.
And we're happy to have you there.
Thank you. I've been with Southern California Edison as a contractor relations manager for the past 8 years. Prior to that, I was with State Senator Kevin Murray's office for 4 years. During that time, the senator was chairing the transportation committee for the state, and so I was his transportation deputy. That was one of my big issues, and worked on Measure R since 2003. Transportation really has been a big passion of mine, living in Encino, obviously, with the 405, and I, public service has, the bug has been me since I was in college. So I've been involved with various community organizations, particularly the Korean American community-based organizations. Sit on about 8 boards, from KAC to the Family Service Center, and look forward to really making an impact in any way I can with the commission. Thank you.
Well, sounds good. Your transportation background sounds very on target for this, of course. So
Thank you.
we thank you for your willingness to to serve in this position.
Thank you.
Seems like it's unanimous. Thank you for stepping up. We look forward to having you on the commission. And for the record, I had in my discussion a very healthy comment about what does this commission do, and in my opinion, how can it be more effective within the mix. And I've asked her to come back in 6 or 7 months after she's had her feet on the ground and understands the dynamic of that to step up and spend some more time with it. So I enthusiastically want to move forward with this, and I have the approval of my colleagues. Thank you very
council
much.
members.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
see you in council. When does she come before council?
John White, Civic Clerk. I will contact Ms. Kim and set a date for council consideration.
Great. Look forward to that. Take care. Okay, we have a public comment from Dr. Tom Williams. Come on up. Haven't seen you in a while, till today.
Dr. Tom Williams, late of Bay City, Texas, where I spent a week on an art exhibition conference, 600 paintings and art pieces. But anyway, LA 32 Neighborhood Council board member also. And we're quite concerned regarding the Department of Transportation because they have a representative on the Technical Advisory Committee for the SR 710 North Extension Gap Closure Project. Now, apparently that person doesn't know that City Council has a resolution, unanimous of course, that said no tunnel in Zones 1, Zones 2, and no surface construction in Los Angeles City in Zone 3. However, the Metro And California Department of Transportation has decided to put Zone 2 back in the alternatives, and Zone 3 with portholes starting in El Sereno. They also have a interesting highway arterial alternative, which would take not even a collector street, a local street of 2 lanes each way, and convert it into an arterial in order to get people from the 710 stub up to Huntington Drive. This was the notorious slip road of the earlier I-710. That is, some means of getting everybody from Valley up to Huntington Drive. We get no benefit. We get all the impacts, and Alhambra gets all of the benefits. So we're quite concerned that the Department of Transportation apparently doesn't know that the City Council has a policy regarding the 710. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And there are 3 more public comment cards, and it doesn't say a specific item, so I want to assume it's general public comment. And I'd like our department head to listen to what this is and to make a comment back. Come on up. One is Garrick Ruiz. Another one is Mary Singas. And the third one is Eric Roman. Great. And since it just said public comment, I have no idea what we're talking about. So I look forward to you speaking. And if I could just have you, Sarah, you're on that side, you start, or whatever side you guys want.
Yeah.
We'll go the other way.
Or the lady in the middle.
Actually,
We're going to start. I'll start.
it's okay.
Fine. That's great. Let's go for it. Your name for the record?
My name is Garrick Ruiz. Thank you, Chairman Rosendahl, Councilmember Parks, Councilmember Koretz, for allowing this opportunity to make public comment today. My name is Garrick Ruiz. I live in Council District 1. I'm a labor organizer here in Los Angeles. We're all here today to talk to you a little bit about Viola Transportation, one of the companies currently bidding for the Dash downtown and mid-city contracts, and to urge you to not award that contract to Viola for reasons that we will explain. Almost exactly 10 years ago today, on May 14th, 2002, then Mayor Hahn issued Executive Directive PE1, Equal Employment Opportunity, Non-Discrimination, and Reasonable Accommodations, citing LA's 30-year leadership in promoting equal opportunity employment. These anti-discrimination requirements are incorporated in the Administrative Code Division 10, governing the award of contracts for goods and services of any kind of nature. It mandates that the City of Los Angeles, quote, deal only with those contractors that comply with non-discrimination and affirmative action provisions of the laws of the United States, the State of California, and the City of Los Angeles. Further, we want to point to the recent decisions by the city attorney in which contracts between Learning for Life and the LA Fire Department in 2008 and the LA Police Department in 2009 were terminated because the parent body of Learning for Life, the Boy Scouts of America, openly practices discrimination on sexual orientation and religious basis. One of the companies that submitted the proposal to bid for these 2 Dash contracts, as I mentioned, is Viola Transportation, which is a division of the French multinational corporation Veolia Environment. As Eric and Mary are going to explain, this parent company practices discrimination in its hiring and operates segregated services in other parts of the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Ma'am, hi.
Hi, I'm Mary Singas, and I live in Mar Vista, which is in Councilmember Rosenthal's district. And I'm going to speak about the part of Veolia discriminating against, which discriminates in its hiring practices and segregated is segregated in its services. Regarding Veolia's discriminatory hiring practices, in its advertisement for control and operation workers for the Jerusalem Light Rail, Veolia requires full Army service and Hebrew at a mother tongue level. While we don't know what mother tongue level means, we do know that the required military service discriminates against Palestinian citizens in Israel. This is made very clear in March 2012 Country Report on Israel by the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, paragraph 16. The committee notes with concern the adoption of laws and the consideration of bills conditioning social and economic benefits on completion of military service, thus excluding non-Jewish communities who are exempted from military service, such as the Palestinian citizens of Israel. In addition to their discriminatory hiring practice, says Veolia also operates a segregated light rail system from Jerusalem to the illegal settlements in the West Bank and several bus lines that support the system of segregation apartheid in occupied Palestinian territories. The segregated service was clearly demonstrated last November when 6 Palestinians who boarded a bus outside Ramallah were dragged off the bus, detained when it stopped outside the illegal Israeli settlement, just like the Freedom Riders in the U.S. when the bus hit the segregated southern states. In other words, Veolia is complicit in the system of segregation apartheid that has been thoroughly documented. Most recently, in its report, the UN committee mentioned earlier expressed its grave concern at the hermetic character of the segregation of two groups who live in the same territory but do not enjoy either equal use of the roads and infrastructure or equal access to basic services and water resources.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir.
So, Eric Roman, resident of Councilmember Garcetti's district, and echoing the sentiments of my colleagues here, we're with the LA Dump Veolia Coalition. We strongly urge this committee and the council to reject the bid by Veolia on this basis. We've gone out to some of the dash buses to talk to riders to explain to them that the very company that operates the bus line that they're riding is also operating ethnically segregated transportation in another part of the world. And as you can imagine, many Angelenos who are riding the dash are very upset about that. We've collected postcards which we'll give to you at a later date, expressing their objection. Veolia has come under scrutiny all around the world for its participation in ethnically segregated transportation, both in terms of in its employment practices as well as in provision of services. Cities including Stockholm, Sweden, Melbourne, Australia, Bordeaux, France, Dublin, Ireland, Swansea, England have all canceled contracts or agreed not to enter into any new contracts with Veolia Transportation. Likewise, Veolia also operates waste management in other parts of the world, and about a dozen cities across the UK have canceled contracts with Veolia's waste management division on the same basis. In short, we think that both the policies and the spirit and the commitment of the City of Los Angeles are clear and not engaging in contracts with companies that engage in any form of discrimination in terms of employment or otherwise. And so we urge this committee to reject the bid from Veolia, and we think there are other bids that are also viable that can provide quality transportation services to the people of Los Angeles. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, the three of you, for your comments. We're not going to react to your comments, but I'm going to ask the head of the department to explain the timetable of where that issue is within the process. If he could come up and just, on the record, FYI, the three of us and the three community people that are here. I have no idea the time frame status or anything else.
Thank you, Jaime De La Vega, LADOT. We're currently in the process of a procurement. No decision has been made at this point. We're also under a blackout period, meaning that other city staff, elected officials, and their staff should not be contacting the departmental staff running the procurement until a decision has been made in writing to the mayor and council, and that report will probably be coming forward in the next few weeks, and I can get you a more specific date in a few minutes.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that FYI information. And when you get that, let us know what the issue is.
Councilmember Rosendahl, would you mind if I just quickly asked Mr. De La Vega if he can just explain or maybe it could be also offline, to explain the process to us in terms of the decision makers within the LADOT and then how it relates to this committee?
I have no problem with him saying that on the record. Okay. In the room like this.
Yeah, so the staff and DOT are going to review all submittals that are given to the department. We're going to follow the evaluation criteria. We're going to confirm whether or not bidders or proposers are complying with all applicable federal, state, and city council rules and regulations. They will make a recommendation to me, and then I'll make a recommendation to the council mayor, and assuming it follows traditional process, it would be referred to this committee for an initial review, and then it would go to the full council for approval, and then it would go to the mayor for signature.
And when it comes before the council, you're free to come and speak on that as an agenda item, so my colleagues and I can interact with that issue. Mr. West, did you want to say anything at this point?
I don't know what's appropriate to say about it, just because it's not on our agenda.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll wait till an appropriate time.
Okay, Mr. Parks, is there anything? Okay, fine. Well, we appreciate everybody's comment and department head. Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Does after you make the decision, does it come to this committee
Oh, yeah, it comes here first.
Yeah, just to be clear, the department does not make a decision. We make a recommendation.
to this committee?
To this committee, and
And
the
then
full
they-
city council and the mayor are the ultimate decision makers.
So when do you anticipate that it would be back here so we could see these findings?
I'm going to make a phone call, and I can advise you within a couple of minutes. Okay.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sure. Appreciate everybody's interaction. We'll know in a few minutes when the timetable will be clear on that. So that's the closing of public comment, unless somebody else didn't fill out the general public comment card. Okay, that's that. Now let's just go through the rest of the items. I think this takes us to item number 2.
Right. Item number 2 on the regular agenda is a Parks Perry motion instructing DOT to work with the fire and police departments, Bureau of Street Services and Engineering, and any other appropriate city entity, along with Caltrans and MTA, and coordinate with the California Science Center on the plans to transport the shuttle Endeavor.
I'd like the department to come up and respond to that. I might add that I had a briefing a while back and was brought into the loop that the Endeavor would be coming to Los Angeles. It's a great honor for any city to get the a shuttle, and one of the reasons I want to say that our Science Center was picked is because they have a very strong educational component there, and they were awarded it out of 50 that applied throughout the nation. So the first one, of course, went to Washington to the Smithsonian. The second we saw en route, I think, went to New York. And the third one is coming to the Great Southland, and we're all very excited about it. And hats off to the museum for being able to secure it. And I know in my district, Gress for a second, it's going to be coming down Manchester, and we'll be out there, and we'll all be excited because it's a major moment for America, and especially for those on the West Coast to see such an incredible vehicle come to our place as a home. So if we could just answer for Mr. Parks and Perry, obviously it's going to impact them in their area, where we're taking this and how it's all going and so forth. I think it's in September is what I've heard is a time frame. Go ahead, guys.
Good afternoon, Councilman. The event...
Your name for the record.
Aram Sahakian, Department of Transportation. The target date is October 13th. It's not set in stone, and the reason for that is there is a lot of prep work.
Sure.
And it's a fluid date. Having said that, LAX CD 11 and CD 8 are impacted. The route is West Westchester Parkway to La Tijera, to Manchester, to Crenshaw, to MLK.
I thought the Science Center wanted to keep under wrap what the...
It's out there.
Okay.
It is not on.
It's clearly out there now. But-
Yes, it's out there already. We've been meeting with the mayor's office for the past 6 months, including our colleagues, our sister agencies. It'll be a unified command system, and I will let Commander Blake speak of that.
Matt Blake, B-L-A-K-E. Nice to meet you from the Office of Operations. We began meeting with the Science Center back in March. March 12th was actually our first time. We've met with them twice. We're excited as well, by the way. This will be a very nice time. We had a meeting with the LAWA, so we've met with the airports, and we've created a unified command structure involving the Fire Department, LAWA PD, Inglewood, DOT, and LAPD. We'll all be working together along with all of the other entities within the city to make this a very good event. The Science Center is excited. We are traveling just about 12 miles or so. We're not allowed to remove anything off of the shuttle because it's a national treasure. So we're excited about that, and we believe that we've taken, just in case, we've taken a special events section in our unified command org structure. So in the event that when we stop, we might have some, they don't know this yet, but there might be some parade-type events that will go on, and all that's in the early planning system. So we've got, June will be our first incident command briefing.
Your colleagues want to comment, or are we all good?
Good afternoon, council members. Assistant Chief Patrick Butler, Los Angeles Fire Department, and echo what my unified commanders have stated here, that yes, as we move forward to bring this national treasure through LA, we're going to work together, and as Commander has talked about, there's a lot of aspects of moving this that involve also protecting the public, the treasure itself, the routes, and traffic flow. So we'll be working, building unified plans and developing our relationships through the objectives we're going to put out there. So with that, we'll be working together, and like many events in Los Angeles, familiar faces, which is a pleasure to do.
Well, thank you, Chief. Captain, do you want to add anything?
Nothing.
Mr. Parks?
No, I think it's self-explanatory, and the only thing we did the motion is to get the city family together.
Perfect.
Yes, Mr. Kretz.
Well, we're obviously excited to have this as an addition to the Science Center. But having been obsessing about the budget till a couple of days ago, I just have to ask, what's the cost associated with the transportation, and what was the source to pay for the costs?
Councilman Koretz, once the traffic management plan is finalized, we will generate the estimate. But I was at a meeting this morning with the mayor's office, and we were asked basically to log everything because we will get reimbursed, including planning and meetings. Just to give you an idea, the removal of signal standards, because the wingspan is 78 feet, it's going to be approximately $40,000 according to what the contractor identified. In addition to that, of course, you have 270 street light poles and overhead signs and other details. But we will have that figure probably in a month or so.
So do we think it's a massive number? I mean, it sounds like a difficult
Crowd control
proposal.
obviously is a big issue. We will plan a full-out deployment. We're expecting hundreds of thousands of people along the route. So it's a full-out deployment, and yes, I would say it's going to be in the hundreds of thousands. DWP, they threw their estimate at us this morning, was $2 million to relocate the power.
As he said, this will be reimbursed.
That's what we were told, and we're moving forward accordingly, yes.
Great, thank you.
And you know, we on budget really want to be reimbursed for anything like this, and I was brought in when I had the discussions with them that they were on a fundraising campaign, and that, if I'm not mistaken, the overall package is $200 million, and they're in the process of making that whole thing happen. Okay. But we do, obviously, as Mr. Park said, we want to report back when we get closer to it, and as Mr. Koretz said, when we know that we've covered the cost of the Joint Command Strategy, we want to hear that back.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, colleagues, on that? It's an informational piece, and we'll move forward, and we want to report back and figure out when.
Did you want to keep this in committee and wait for the report back, council members, or do you want to keep this matter in committee to wait for the report back?
Just move it through the process,
Okay.
but then I want to report back on
Okay.
how we're doing down the road. No, let's
Okay.
get this going. Great. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you. Chief? Okay, next item.
Next item is item number 4, which is a Rosendahl-Koretz motion instructing DOT with the Department of Building and Safety, Planning and Fire Departments, and any other appropriate city agencies to prepare and release an RFP for an automated parking system at the new city-owned parking lot on Electric Avenue.
Could we just have a quick report on this, please? As you know, folks, we believe strongly that public-private partnerships is the strategy in the challenging times we're in as a great city. This is something exciting. We're going to get a little bit of a briefing on it, and I'll make some more comments after staff speaks. Go for it.
Good afternoon, council members. Amir Sadati, Executive Officer, joined here with Renee Sagalis on the Parking Facilities Division Manager. Obviously, Venice and Abbott Kinney, we've been working on trying to increase the parking supply in that area. As you know, council member, we are working on providing the surface lots. It's been long coming, and we appreciate your support and leadership on that. So we were approached on this concept that you've brought forth with automation, basically taking a piece of surface lot and seeing if we can use automation automation and storing vehicles and basically adding more parking supply to that area, which is in great need. So there's a few, I think, approaches to that, and one is to release an RFP. I think what we want to make sure is addressed here is the resource limitations and the expertise within DOT. So what we'd like to do is continue to work with your office and the stakeholders in that area to see if we could spend and do what's called an RFI, try to get a little bit more information on the types of technology that would work in that area, which then can be put into an RFP, which then can be released. It might add maybe 3 to 4 months additional to the project, but what I'm afraid is without the technology expertise on those specific automation, the city of LA has not had a project like that. There are sister cities like West Hollywood that's done one. There's a couple private garages that's been done, so we just would potentially, council member, get a consultant on board to quickly assess that and to help us with that, which would again add a little bit more time to it. But we're open to continuing the dialogue. We think it's a very important project for that area, and we would be happy to answer any more questions.
I might add at this point, sir, did you want to add anything to this?
No, Mr. Sidati have expressed really one of the problems.
Your name
It's not
for the
really-
record. Go ahead.
Ernest Saglas, Parking Facilities Division, LADOT. Really, it's more on the expertise that we have. This is really new for LA, Los Angeles, and most of the automated parking is in the West Coast. I had the opportunity to meet some of those manufacturers, and we're continuing to work for other things, like I'll be discussing it with Unitronics. There are the company that was contracted to do the West Hollywood automated parking, and to know more about it so that we can incorporate the best practice.
Excellent, and I appreciate that. Mr. Koretz, ears perked up because he is a former West Hollywood council member, and I might say, for the record, historically, my great predecessor, Pat Russell, was the one who took and worked a relationship with the railroad and got the right-of-way on Abbott Kinney and the back side of it on Electra, and for many years, local people encroached on it because it wasn't being used. And when the opportunity presented itself to actually clear it and allow us to go forward with what we're doing now, which is metering it, roughly 115 parking spots would be created. When that process was done, one of the local merchants, Hal's, which is a restaurant there that does have valet service, came forward and said that they were in the process of raising and putting together somewhere between $3 and $5 million from community. In fact, he himself had put together some $3,500, $3,700, and I thought that was pretty extraordinary because it shows that the folks on Abbott Kinney care so much about Abbott Kinney that they really do want to make adequate parking for everybody. So what this will do is take one of the lots that has 50 spaces and could quadruple it, frankly, up to between 150 and 200 spaces. And of course, the issues for me will be community, neighborhood, noise, and so on. And so there's been a tremendous outpouring of support. This also has to be closely worked with the planning department, because there's another potential restaurant down the street that they historically had said could put parking on the roof, which we don't want to do of that structure. We want in lieu, so we're working on with planning an in lieu strategy where we can take money that would go for something like that and create it toward this other strategy, which is automated location. Plus, we're also talking to the local school there about maybe creating a relationship with their surface lot that would also give an additional 50 spots. But, you know, Monday morning quarterbacking is where I'm at on this, because historically public parking was not as seriously put into the planning thing. Things were grandfathered or godfathered or whatever that don't exist, and in fact, that has made Abbott Kinney the kind of street it is now. So this is all real good news, and as best we can, expediting this and moving it along with the energy coming from the private sector that's willing to partner with us is a key element in this. Mr. Greth, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, it's an interesting issue to me. I actually tried since about 20 years ago to get the city of West Hollywood to look at this issue, and they finally have done so long after I was gone from there. But I know Building and Safety has been doing some work on this. Have you been in communication with them and up on all the work that they're doing so that we benefit by all of that expertise?
Yes, Councilmember, as the motion has stated, there will be a task force, not only planning, building, and safety. We will be checking with the fire department as well, because there's a lot of coordination needed in a automated structure. So yes, that would all be part of us working together to make sure the necessary criteria, guidelines are adhered to, so that we have a good project when bidders out there want to bid on this type of project. They understand what the code requirements are within LA, what the exit entrance strategies should be, and everything else that we need to work with. So yes, we will be working with them.
I mean, it's a little bit more expensive process, but where land is at a premium and parking demand is high, I think it makes sense. And certainly this is an area where we should be looking at it. So I'm very excited to hear about it.
Mr. Parks. Well, we're very excited about it. We look forward to the report back on that. And Mr. Sadati, I understand you're going to be moving on, and we just want to thank you for your incredible leadership over the last 22 years. You've been a fine member of the Department of Transportation.
Thank you.
And I know we'll work some more for a few more weeks anyhow.
Thank you.
Until this stuff is done, but we appreciate your...
It's been a pleasure serving the city.
And I'm sorry to hear that, but I would certainly echo that. You've done an amazing job, and we certainly recognize you for that and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. So the item is moved, and it will go to full council now?
Approve the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
We approve the motion unanimously. Okay. Any comment back on that timetable issue? Obviously, we want you to have as much time as you need to do it.
The department expects to have a report to the mayor by July 1st. I assume it's going to be referred to the CAO. My understanding is it'll probably be about a month to get their report, and then it'll be to council early August.
So it will come to committee?
As by early August, as soon as you decide to schedule it.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for that update on that. Okay, the next item is item number 5.
Item number 5 is a DOT report relative to authorizing the general manager to administratively renew temporary preferential parking districts.
Okay. Is there any comment by anyone on this or the department, or no necessary? Colleagues, can we just move forward with this? Mr. Kretz, you have a question? Mr. Parks? No. No, Mr. Parks, no. Mr. Kretz?
Yeah, I think this is a good idea because it would save time for various departments and staff. I would just encourage that we look at restaffing this arena so that folks that are waiting with bated breath to have the opportunity to add permit parking districts, that we have that opportunity at some point in the future. But hopefully this is an efficiency that we would add that hopefully would reduce costs. And I think that's certainly a positive, but I think we should keep our eye on restaffing this arena in the future.
Let's take that question seriously right now and ask staff to come up, because I have 4 questions I want to go on the record with, if we could do this rather quickly, as Mr. Caress was suggesting. Question number 1, how far in advance of the renewal date will council offices have to submit their comments if there are concerns on moving forward with the renewal?
We will be notifying
the record.
Yadi Hashimi, LA DOT Parking Permits Division. We'll be notifying council offices a month in advance of the renewal date coming up. And as is customary, we keep track of what input we get from the residents that live within a district. So when the time comes to renew, if there are any recommendations for making parking changes, the kinds of restrictions we have in operation in those districts, that's the time when we try and make the change, since it's convenient to do that as part of the renewal. So we'll be notifying every council office 1 month in advance of the upcoming renewals in the district and getting their okay before we go ahead and administratively change the date.
Sounds good to me, and of course, I'm looking at the general manager. Does this proposal give the general manager the authority to make changes or eliminate temporary PPDs?
No. To make any change, whether it's the parking restrictions or discontinuing a district, the directions have to come from the council office, and it has to come through the committee and go through to full council.
Did you want to add anything, Mr. General Manager? He quickly came up on that one. Good, thank you for that. Third one is, will this proposal allow the department to eliminate PPD moratorium for new district?
Well, as you might be aware, we are working on a set of major reforms to the program, and I'm glad to say that within the next 2 months, I hope to come before this committee and eliminate some of the bureaucratic red tape that we have had to deal with over the years, make it much easier to expand districts, create districts as part of classification so that we can protect our residential neighborhoods around sports centers, entertainment centers, major educational establishments. So we have and those reforms will actually go a long way in terms of helping us do preferential parking districts in a much more expeditious manner. But certainly a council member's suggestion that we need to, have the number of staff members that we are supposed to have is very welcome.
Okay, and for the general manager as well, will this establish a new temporary PPDs still require council approval?
Yes, Council, but all PPDs will require council approval. Also, just for background, the intent of this report is to free up staff time so that we can begin a process of re-engaging on PPDs on behalf of council.
Beautiful. That kind of answers everybody's questions. Thank the three of you very much for that, and we will move it from committee to council. We're approving that. Now we're going to the special items, correct? Items 1 and 2.
Yes, since they're related, did you want to take them together?
Yeah, let's take them together, but I'd like to let our dear friend Dr. Tom Williams come up for both. He's got a card filled out for 1, and he's got a card filled out for 2.
Why don't I read them first? Item number 1 is a Han Labange motion directing DOT to report relative to removing the on-street parking meters in downtown San Pedro and Wilmington. Item number 2 is a Buscaino-Rosendahl motion instructing DOT to conduct the necessary traffic investigations and surveys needed to decrease the parking meter rates in San Pedro and Wilmington by 50%.
Please,
Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, and what do I know about parking? Well, I was part of the Parsons Corporation study team that instituted the first parking meters in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, a long time ago. But anyway, they made a lot of money. However, in LA 32 Neighborhood Council area, we have the El Sereno downtown. We have problems. We don't have any meters, fortunately. However, you have to be very careful for the businesses because they need to have short-term parking, say 2 hours, 3 hours, because a lot of our people have complained that employees of surrounding companies, they're in the downtown, will park all day in the parking areas, which restrict the amount of turnover they get from their clients. So if you're going to take out the parking meters, make sure that you put up the 2-hour signs. Elsewise, you're going to get a lot of people sitting in front of the companies, the stores, the shops, and the restaurants using up that parking area and not generating any revenue. Thank you.
Thank you for both of that. Colleagues, any comments on this at this point? Because what we're doing is we want to approve it to move forward, and then they'll come back, obviously, with the reports to back it up.
Are we looking at 1 and 2?
We're looking at 1 and 2.
I vote no on both. I think that's a revenue issue, and that we shouldn't be changing the system for one specific area. The reason we have meters is to raise revenue. We would not have closed the budget without special parking revenue dollars. And to ask for a separate plan as it relates to 50-cent break, every district would like that, except we all are part of the same system.
Mr. Park's point is valid about that, but that can still be addressed when it comes back to the committee with the specifics.
We would anticipate the DOT's report in response to these motions would include any revenue impacts on that.
Yeah, and I appreciate his on-the-record comment, because I feel similar to that the reality is we all have to deal with this issue, and it obviously needs to come back to committee. I want to keep an open mind enough for the committee to respond back. We got the general manager coming up, and did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I have some of the same concerns and the same concerns that were also mentioned in terms of turnover. In addition to just the finances of the city, I think completely taking the meters out would probably be counterproductive for the area, and you might have more employees parking all day instead of customers. So at most, I would be open to seeing reducing the rates, but actually removing the meters themselves, I think would wind up being counterproductive for the area. And I have the broader concerns, both financial and the fact that everyone will get the demand to do this. Once it's done in one district, I'm going to be asked to do this in other places, and we all will. And I'm not sure financially or otherwise that that's a great idea.
Just to be clear, both of the motions are report backs. Neither one of them directs the department to do that. So you will get a report back, and these issues can be discussed if you go ahead and approve the motion. I just wanted to clarify.
Interesting here, without any comments among any of us, we are in a public comment moment as 3 electeds here, and we're all saying the same thing. So obviously, we're saying to the department, listen to, obviously, the politics of the reality, but on the other hand, we want an objective report with all the options. Please.
Yeah, just to be clear, Councilmember Parks, we will have a full fiscal impact statement and analysis if the council directs us to move forward on this. I think the other thing to think about for the council is really what is the purpose of parking regulatory policy. You know, obviously meters generate revenue, but the purpose of time limits and meters is to encourage turnover so that businesses have access for their customers. So in cases like LA Express Park, which we launched Monday in downtown, the goal is to have rates and regulations that respond to the actual demand. So if there's very high demand in a neighborhood, you'd actually increase rates, but in areas where you have low demand, low utilization, you would lower rates, and in some cases actually remove meters because they're more expensive to operate and maintain than the revenue they're generating.
But that would have to be part of the system that you have downtown, not on the outlying provinces.
Right, we are testing it in downtown right now, and what the second motion proposes is for the department, if council approves it, to implement that same sort of demand-based pricing in San Pedro and Wilmington.
But what would that be on the technology? It's not there now.
Right, well, we are going to upgrade the meters in San Pedro. Ultimately, the amount of meters that are upgraded will depend on the council direction as it relates to these two motions.
When you say to upgrade them, you're talking about the new credit cards?
Yes, that's correct.
And then the other thing I was going to ask you is that would you add in the information, I think the last 4 years, of what amount of money that the city has given up on their holiday programs, where each year we've been asked to eliminate parking for the holiday seasons, I think in some of these same areas?
Yes, we'll calculate that as well.
Very good. That'd be very helpful. And yes, I would have been there the other day, but we did have budget all day Monday, and I was very proud of you and the department for putting the sensors in and moving in that direction. And I think all of us would like to see that throughout the city as this pilot continues to expand. So thank you for your leadership on that.
I just want to make sure that you've heard all of our concerns, and those are all answered. My greatest concern is that the business community actually might be shooting themselves in the foot and actually have less turnover and less parking available if they actually remove the meters. So I would want to be very careful with that. Obviously, we're concerned about our finances, but the last thing we want to do is reduce our finances and actually impact the businesses negatively at the same time and make this a lose-lose for everybody, which is what I fear could happen.
Well said. It's all on the record, colleagues, so we will approve this out of committee to full council, and then the report back. How much time will you need for a report back?
Assuming the council acts on this, we actually began some of the analysis when Councilwoman Hahn was in office and introduced the first motion, so very quickly. less than a week.
You'll let us know, and then we'll calendar it again once it goes through the council process there. But I think on the record, you heard three of us rather dubious about the whole notion to begin with.
Committee members, Mr. Parks, did you vote no on both motions?
Well, being that the report back, say yes to that. I want to make
You're okay with that? Okay. Mr. Koretz also voting yes on the report back requests?
Yeah, I would hope that it's communicated, though, that
Okay.
we do so with a certain amount of skepticism about the concept.
So noted.
Good. So the three of us have on the record clearly pointed out our issues, and we look forward to your report back answering those issues in direct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Parks, for being here. Any other public comment? Here, nothing. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so very much.
It is.
No.
Somebody.
Might
No, somebody else. Let's squeeze on it.